Good evening, everyone. It is Monday. Let's get this market rolling. I am ready to see some numbers. Let's go. We got rate cuts potential. We're getting one. We know that. I think that's pretty clear cut. What's going to happen here? But let's talk about Applied Digital real fast. I think Applied Digital is kind of, it's got a subculture of investors that are, onto it. They see what's going on. But I've talked about this numerous times with Applied Digital, and obviously there's more companies like this, but Applied Digital has been getting a lot of attention this year. And two, the quarterlies up to this point haven't been they haven't beat expectation, but nonetheless revenue has been ticking up. At the beginning of the year we had a massive revenue stream coming in with Applied Digital, and that's why the stock has risen so much, because the money has been like, that's a lot of money. That happened real fast. But two, data centers are becoming more talk of the town. I mean, everyone's talking about these data centers, how they're just popping up, they're needed, and they look like they're really becoming this really, just this thing that's going to be here in the future with just the world, where we're going to have massive data centers. They're going to be heavily guarded. They're almost like bunkers of almost military bunkers, because they're holding data. They're doing stuff like this, and it's a big deal. But two, obviously there's a lot going after, there's a lot of bad news to impress after these data centers, because they're using so much power. But nonetheless, I'm just here reporting the stock, for God's sakes. Let's talk about Applied Digital. So right now we're seeing Applied Digital still play around at this very beautiful position of around $14 to $13. Just 2 weeks ago, for God's sakes, this thing was at almost $17. Now with the job reports coming out, job reports were bad. We knew that was going to happen. We've seen Applied Digital sell off with the market. Now I am very much in the realm that this week is going to be really interesting in the market, because we're coming off bad job reports. The market's going, oh my God, that's how tragic. But two, we know we're going into, the Feds will be talking here in 2 weeks, and probably pretty sure that we're going to see the Fed say, hey, we're going to do a rate cut, maybe more than one. So the market undoubtedly will shoot back up here. The NASDAQ, the S&P, the Dow, all that's going to shoot back up here. And I think, Applied Digital will find, it will anchor back in around this, $13, $14 position. Maybe 12, who knows? But undoubtedly, we've seen such great growth from this stock so far. It's been really interesting to watch what's going on here. And it's really wild too, because it's getting so much attention to where the stock is growing in price, even though it's not hitting these quarterlies. But it's the revenue that's growing is what's so interesting right now. Now, the latest news with Applied Digital that has come out here, we're seeing more of these investment firms buy into Applied Digital. Now, some people may not think this is a big deal, but it's good. This is good. So, Needham Investment Management LLC has acquired 85,000 shares of Applied Digital Corporation, valued at approximately almost $500,000 in the first quarter. And I'll put all this up here so you can see it. So, this is good. This is real good. They're obviously, what's very interesting about this too is that, and even right here it says research analysts have shown positive sentiment, with multiple firms raising their price targets and issuing buy ratings on the stock, now averaging a target price of $15.80. That's very random, but nonetheless, it's pretty interesting that this is they bought the stock at a very high price. Applied Digital, I guess this is kind of like being a little bearish on it here, but they bought it at a very high price. So if they're buying Applied Digital at such a high price right now, they must really believe that this stock is going to stay around these low teens, and that the future is going to bring them more. So, It's very interesting. Very interesting. It's kind of just saying more of what a lot of us are thinking, that, we're going to see. I think what's kind of happening here, and, just a little bit of a backstory with what's going on with Applied Digital. I mean, they are still literally, putting pillars in the ground. I mean, nails in the wall here. They're, hammers. They're building on right now, their structure of their building. They're building right now. But two is that we're going to see more of this teeter-totter situation with revenue, where it's going to come in with maybe not beating expectation, but coming in with some pretty high revenue nonetheless. I mean, just 2 years ago, this company was barely bringing in 10-15 million dollars in revenue. Now, we're talking about 30, 40, 50. I mean, my God, this year, at the beginning of the year here, they brought in over $60 million in one of these quarterlies. So, and the one before that, they brought in another 60 million. So they've made a lot of money here this year. Now, obviously, there's debt, there's things that are going on here, but for such a new company, it's a very, where do you go from here? Are you going to anchor in and make a position here with the stock because you believe that the company is going to keep doing well? Either way, like I said at the beginning here, I do believe that these digital companies like this are going to, data companies like this are going to really find a place in the market. I almost look at them as like, they're going to be somewhat like something like a REIT stock or a housing stock, where, they're very volatile from, year to year, how the money's going, but they're slow and steady, if that makes sense. They're not going to really ever, I don't think Applied Digital is ever going to take over the zeitgeist of the market. I don't think, Applied Digital is never going to become like even in the top 10 most, well-known stocks. There's always, a top 10, top 5 of the most, popular stocks, that year or in that moment. I don't think Applied Digital is ever going to be there. It's a pretty popular stock, no doubt about it, but it's just not going to be in that realm here. So, I look at this and I go, well, I think there's still plenty of room for this stock, obviously, because, there's investment firms buying it up right now, that, I think this is going to be a $20 stock here by, easily 6 months from now. Especially if they can start to pull out more money out of these quarterlies, where, this last quarterly, and they do quarterlies a little different here, so they're going to start back up. But, if you can see them push right back up into this 50, 55, $60 million quarterly range, this is going to go right back up into $16, $17, $18. And, if 2026 can really push more into these data centers, people, really looking at, even investors looking at, stocks like this, I think Applied Digital has already put a big red dot on itself where investors are looking at it 100%. So, I mean, it's crazy because I started talking about this stock, 8-10 months ago when it was $4, $4, $5, $6, and now it is turned into this. This is insanity. But at the beginning of the year when we saw these big quarterlies come in, it was like, oh my God, like what is going on here? So friends, yeah, I like Applied Digital. I'm going to keep talking about it. It is very interesting. And, 100%, it's a choppy situation with the quarterlies. I get it here. It is going to be, until this company really finds a place to be, it's going to be choppy. I mean, even if you go back to 2023, going into 2024, there were a lot of positive quarterlies, and then it got choppy there for a minute. And now starting off this year, it got positive again. So maybe we're going into another slump, a higher slump, but nonetheless, coming out of the storm, maybe Applied Digital is saying, hey, we're actually going to start breaking into $60, $70 million quarterlies here. That's where we're going. So, yeah, it's very interesting. Friends, listen, I wish all of you the best of luck. Let me know what you think about Applied Digital. Are you buying it? You staying with it? What are you doing with this thing? I'm very interested in it. Take care, everyone.